So just let me know when you can hear me so I can know. You can hear? Okay, so you can hear. Okay. So just let me know. I hope we can hear. So since you all just been able to hear me, let me start over again. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Tea Time. Okay, great, Donna. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Tea Time. So let me restart. You know, I just want to get a happy birthday. Niece Chaz to Ray Chaz was born to my niece Sherelle on yesterday. We welcoming her into the world and look forward to sending much love, attention, and affection her way. So we have a new special birthday for 124. And so today's topic is family business. And right out of family business, we're going to get into family secrets. And we're going to talk about how keeping family secret makes your child vulnerable for being affected in some type of way by family, right? We did go over a little bit of the upcoming topics. So this week is family business, which is secrets, part one. We will revisit it again February 22nd for part two. Hey, Shamika, and hey to everyone, in case I missed any chats. And then for the first Wednesday in November, in February, we will be talking about what love got to do with it, followed by Wednesday the 8th, Super Bowl Sunday stats, and then February 15th, just loving yourself. And it's just some encouragement in case someone don't celebrate Valentine's Day for whatever reason. Some people don't because of the meaning. Someone may not have a significant other, or for some reason may have worked, or that person may have worked. Hey, sis, and you don't get to celebrate it. So we just want to work on encouraging everyone to know that you're valued and that you're sufficient. So just jump right on in. When we talk about family secrets, please, please, please tell me what comes to mind when you think about family secrets. I know most of us, we had old aunts and grandparents. We will always say, don't go telling nobody the business. The kids don't tell what goes on in here. How do you feel about that statement? Has that statement ever been said to you? How do you feel about that? What is your take on that? Are you someone that has an open door policy with your child about being able to talk about anything? Or you one that will just shut your child out if they came and tried to share something with you? So let's talk about that. What's popping? Okay, what's popping? Me and Millie are, hey Millie, hey big sister. So okay, so I have someone saying they can't comment. So if you can't comment, just make sure you send it to text it to me what you want to say at 202-758-8941. As well as if you want to be anonymous with what you want to share, just send a text to me and I'll read it and no one will have to know where it came from. So let's see, we have a couple of secrets. Illness, children born out of wedlock. Okay, there's a lot of secrets. Okay, and that's why we're going to follow back up with some of those other things on the 22nd that we don't get to touch on. So some of the most important things that come to mind when we talk about family business and secrets are illness, children born out of wedlock. But the one that we're going to touch on today, and hopefully we can send it into next week as well. I mean, the next month as well, is molestation. We're going to start off talking about molestation. And I just want to share some things about what made my mom such a great mom. I'm just responding back to someone's text in case they want to put anything back in here. 1 second, please. Court's indulgence, please. Okay. So my mom and grandma was very, very, very overprotective, right? What I thought was overprotective as a child. Like I wasn't going to anybody's house. I wasn't sitting on anybody's lap. But I think that them being overprotective in that way really protected me from a lot. Because studies have shown that children are not only at a higher rate molested by family members, but they're molested by going over best friends' houses, doing a sleepover and things of that nature. And my mom was not going for any of that growing up. And I was actually blessed to be able that my girls didn't have to do that. It was a very selective few people who they were able to go and visit with. So when we talk about that, we have to think about what does molestation, someone who is a molester, look like. And the thing that we sometimes miss, and I think is very important, and jump in and chime in whenever you're ready, that we're good at protecting our daughters, but we don't really protect our sons. So do know that boys are molested also. So we need to put up a lot of safeguards to protect our sons as well as our daughters. A lot of parents often don't believe the children, especially when it's a family member. Hear them out, regardless of who it may be. Hear them out, because that's one of the things that children have been found to lie least about, especially younger children under the age of 12. That's one of the things that they have found that they lie least about was being molested, right? So, what kind of parent are you? Let's see. Do we have any? We are bad at protecting both. So we already talked about that. Not only are our daughters subject to it, but our sons are as well. And then we sometimes look at men. We look at men as always being the perpetrator. But honestly, sometimes it's women. Sometimes you can have a 6-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter, and your 13-year-old daughter has a best friend that comes over all the time. And she may be the first encounter with your son, your child, your 6-year-old, for the first time. So those are reasons that we have to protect our sons and daughters. And we also have to be educated enough to know that a child molester does not look a certain way. It's not always a white man with glasses. It's not always someone that looks strange and coming to the playground and don't have a child with them. Those types of things stand out. When really the person that's coming to the playground that don't have a child could have been someone who lost a child and just get a piece hearing kids play, right? So we have to really investigate that. Let's go to sis. Okay. A good book that I learned about 18 years ago is called It Happens to Boys Too. That is, I've never heard of that book, but I am going to look for that. Please protect your sons, nephew, male cousins, because we don't do a good job of that. I know that my mom wouldn't pretty much let me go anywhere. My brothers, they couldn't go a lot of places, but they could go more places than I could, because we sometimes don't protect our sons. We just protect our daughters. Let's see, we have something else coming in. Yet we focus on adults, manners violate each other, older children. Yeah. So definitely the fact that manners are perpetrators also. So you may have a 16-year-old that did some form of act on a 5-year-old, right? And a lot of times it's someone that's really close to the kids. But something else I want us to be aware of is sometimes a child is molested by an adult, but they'll use another child or someone younger and point the blame on them. So be paying attention to those types of things. Is there any mothers or fathers on the line right now and can share something that you use as a safeguard to protect your children? Is there something that you use, and your children may be grown now, right? And we're going to talk about the fact that sometimes they get a little older and it's harder to protect the older child. But let's talk about why they're young, right? When you think about who you would let provide care to your child, how did you choose who was a good babysitter for your child? I know a few people who I feel is pretty good parents. But when they would go out, they would allow someone that has an alcoholic problem to watch the child. They may have let someone who kids was removed from them already watch the child. Or they may have been dealing with someone with drug exposure, because we're so big on knowing the person. So we feel that this person could never do anything to our child. And why this is so important to me is because once it's done, it's one of those things that can't be redone, right? It's not one of those things that can. So once their innocence is taken and violated, there's a lot of behaviors that come from that. And some of those behaviors is acting out. Some of them are being withdrawn. Some of them are overdressed. Some of them are Harley dressed, right? And most importantly, some of them are promiscuous. You know, some people that were molested become very promiscuous, and not only will they sleep with multiple people, but also multiple sexes, because that has a lot to do with it. So when you're having those conversations, because I'm big on loving everybody, you know, whatever your preference is, whatever your color is, but we need to start having conversations to see where some of that behavior came from. Other than being selective of where they go, you want to teach them appropriate behaviors and to ask right questions when they come back. That is an excellent point, because I was just told of a word. I know Yanni is on by phone, but I'm looking for a word. I want to say the word is grooming, and anyone else can chime in and let me know, because I don't think she can chat. I think she's just listening. But let me know if the word is grooming. And when you talk about appropriate behavior, that's what we're talking about, the grooming process, how people groom your child. So all the time, it's not just something that okay, it is called grooming. Okay, so it's not something that's just done out. Sometimes they do things, you know, like you know, I am very conscious of, you know, people wanting to overly buy your child stuff or separate them from other children. So meaning that if you have two children, this one can go with you, but that one can, you know, because they know that some kids are dominant. They probably know, hey, like a Mumu, she's gonna tell, right? And then you may have like a Shamika that you feel like that you can manipulate a situation with a little bit more. So definitely be mindful of that. I never let people bribe my kids. For example, if they don't give me a hug, you can't have my McDonald's. I like that, you know, and I know that I'm someone, and we talked about that for a while. I am really big on extended family. So, like, my kids have tons of aunts and uncles. But once I did a show on this about a year ago and got a lot of feedback, I stopped using that so openly, you know, because someone can easily come get your child or get them a hug, you know, get them a kiss, you know, or we sometimes force them. You go ahead and speak to that person. Validate your child's feelings. Validate their feelings. I'm going back to the phone again, have some more text. And this parent is just saying that they don't let their child go anywhere and that they pray over their child all the time. I never let people bribe my child. Or force her child to interact with people. And that's very important, because like I feel like I have a huge discernment of people, right? And I've been this way for some time, probably not really young, right? But I do know I've been this way for some time. So there may be something in your child that they've seen someone do, and they just don't want to connect. They just don't want that behavior, right? So start forcing your child to do things. My oldest granddaughter mother, talks a lot about allowing her to freely express herself, right? And she does it very well. Like anything you ask her, like, you could just be like, Natalie, you can't, but why? But grandma, I only want a little bit. And I admire that so much, because as much as I love my grandmother and my mom to pieces, I didn't get to really have an opinion as a child, but it didn't stop me, believe it or not. So I got popped a lot of times, not really by my grandmother, but by my mother constantly, because I was not one who would follow the program. So like if an adult did something to me, and she'd be like, oh, that's an adult, kitty. And I would say, yeah, Bob, was it Bob? Yeah. I would say, she would say, that's an adult. And I was like, but they did such and such and such. Like, so I would shut my mouth up. And so, you know, in the neighborhood, they considered me a disrespectful child, but I was opinionated, right? And there is a boundary with that. There's definitely a boundary, because I don't feel like children should disrespect adults. But at the same time, we do have to own the fact that sometimes adults are wrong. And I know growing up in my era, if a teacher said it, you were in trouble for it. You know, it wasn't no too much of going back and forth. If the church said it, you did it. Ain't no going back and forth. But I was a little different with that. You know, I got better over time, because I did one time go through the thing where I was a young mother, but can't nobody say nothing to Pookie. Y'all don't look at them, don't touch them, don't correct them. So I did learn to create safe circles around that and allow some people to be involved in a safe manner. But those are things that we have to look at. Hear your child out. Now, getting back to the secret piece of this, and this is most important. How do you all feel about people knowing that family members have molested someone else, but don't expose the family member? But they shouldn't have to keep quiet about being disrespectful just because exactly. So, man, you both were mouthy kids coming up. So how do you all feel about families that protect family secrets? And I know we're definitely going to get into the illness and the children out of wedlock. But I want to know right now, as it relates to sexual assault, a family member is known for that behavior. The family member is known for that behavior. Why do we keep quiet? Talk to me. Because we tell all the other family business. We talk about who rent ain't paid, right? So talk to me about that. Let's see. Okay, so that was a comment with everybody on it. Let's see this here. I don't let her go anywhere because I got that one. I think it should be exposed to whoever could potentially. Right. So tell the whole world. I like tell the whole world. Someone just text that they feel that they think it should be exposed to whoever is potentially a victim. But then how do we know who the victim is? Right? How do we know who the victim is? So I definitely like tell the whole world. So being a mother, and sometimes we see things like, oh, I tell all this, but it's definitely different when it's your child or when it's your family. I can understand why it's private in order to protect the victim. Okay, so I didn't look at it from that way. I'll definitely take that. But also by protecting the victim, you're also protecting the perpetrator. You can't protect that family member and the child. You got to pick a side. Yeah. So what about how do you protect the perpetrator? Really, like if you're protecting a child and you don't, because you can just say, hey, this person X, Y, and Z, or spread it around the family like T. And then it doesn't have the child or whoever the victim was don't have to be involved. Do you know how many children we can save in our families? Probably in some schools, if we just took the time to share that information. Now I'm talking to parents right now, right? I'm talking to parents right now. If you know, and right? If you have a child, let's just say weird for lack of better words, right? And something is not right, don't have that child around people's children. I had feelings about one of my sons, when he was younger. And I made it known, nothing that was concrete, but this is what I see. This is what I noticed. And it was not a secret. I did tell people in a safe space where not to experience everything, but he wasn't going to be around my grandgirls. I didn't even have them yet. But not only that, but they're not going to be around somebody else's kids, because I know of stories and situations where people know. And and it could either be not just your son or your daughter, it could be your husband or your wife. If your husband's like touching little girls, the sleepover should not be at your house, right? Let me see what you all are saying. It's like an everyday crime. If you don't know if you don't know a thief is a thief, you'll be getting robbed. Exactly. And I witnessed that. And I have been very transparent when I went through stuff. Like anybody that know me or knew my twins, when they would go through their trials and tribulations, it was group texts going out, right? Group texts going out, dun, 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 and won't expose all the detail, but this is this, right? Because some of us just pretend that this is not it, right? And they bring kids over their house, they have sleepovers, and then they things happen to people's children, and then you can't justify to me, it's one thing if you didn't know, but your child can't have two sexual assault charges, and you laughing, smiling with me, talking about everybody and telling me everybody business but yours and your sons, and then you're inviting people's children over, and then something happens to someone else's child. I'm not going to invite people over my home if one of my children is exhibiting inappropriate behavior. I wouldn't want that on my conscience. It's so important because kids already see so much at school, right? They see so much at school. And if by any chance, if you work in a school system, especially if you're working with children with mental, we don't use MR no more, intellectual disabilities, right? Make sure you are involved with whoever is providing care, because a lot of people take advantage of people who can't talk, who can't defend themselves, right? Make sure you know that even when children are little, visit your child's daycare, or when they're in elementary school. When I pick up my baby on Fridays from school, one of the first things I'm saying to you, who you play with? Did you stay in the group with all the rest of the kids? Because I want to know if somebody is trying to lure her to a different player. I want to make sure ain't no third grader trying to have my 3-year-old come in the corner and play. No. And where's staff? I like to ask her, what did staff say? How did they do it? What did they do? Let's see. So just wanted to clarify that it was one of my younger son. I won't get into any more depths around that, but someone just wanted to make sure their name was clear. Oh my gosh. And someone just wanted to share that they experienced something like that. And I won't get into details with the text, but they experienced something like that. So my prayers and my heart goes out to that person. And it's so important because we neglect our children we neglect our children just to go see RE. I am so glad my mother didn't go see RE, because whenever I needed her to watch them, all I needed was a pack of cigarettes. And I could go out and have a good time, but somebody else may not have that. And no matter how tired I get or how overwhelmed, I try to give my grandchildren parents an outlet. Even if it means sacrificing my weekend sometime, just to make sure they are safe just when they're in your earlier stage. So I don't plan on giving my weekends up when Yari and Al is 13. If they don't call me, I ain't calling them. But while they're little and they're in their much protected, needed state, I am going to be there and sacrifice myself, because that one trauma can change them for a lifetime. What if the child What if your child is the one abusing somebody else? Right. So that's what we were talking about. What if your child is the one doing it and you fail to protect another child? Like, you fail. And then some people are mandated reporters. And I know about uncomfortable conversations. If anyone knows me, know that I've been for a whirlwind. I've been parenting for over 30 years. And not just parenting on the weekend. I'm talking about full-time parenting. But my last rodeo was a rodeo, right? And I'm still not at that finish line, but I'm closer to it now than I ever was before. I got about a year and a half to go to that finish line. So I'm always taking prayers. I'm always learning things that work with these, that work with them. So I am definitely always, but when you're dealing with this stuff, protect, sometimes we're all over the place. What about those mothers, right? What about those mothers who want a man so bad that you don't know anything about him and his background, but you got him in the house with you and your daughters? Did you know that a lot of men prey on single moms because it's easy to make their children a victim? They want one that has no father presence. They want one where the dad is dead or in jail or just as deadbeat. Men, you have an obligation to protect your children, whether you're with the mom or not. Protect your children. If mom is dating someone, reach out, and not just your sons too. If their mom is dealing with someone, you need to ask your son how he feel about that person, and get involved, because women sometimes, need a man, and at the and to spend some time of their children, right? Sometimes it just and they don't mean any harm most of the time. I don't think so anyway. But they could be struggling with a drug addiction. They could be struggling with alcoholism. They could be struggling with so many things that this is why you're needed in the homes and in the communities. This is why you're needed. And I know that Donald is going to be an upstanding one, like a Christian, like a Pookie, like a Carlton, like a Mike. And it's so important that you are involved. Let your child know my dad, you talking about something. If I tell somebody you're gonna kill me, no, my dad gonna kill you first, right? Let your daughters know that their dads are their king. Men, when you're dating these women, and this is just aside from the sexual predator behavior, make sure the woman you're dealing with is treating your children right. Make sure when you're not around, she's not saying mean, disrespectful things, belittling your daughter, tearing her down, or either touching your son. Your son 17, 18. Let's make sure she ain't like, because I don't like to make it just on a sex. I like to make it overall. Just make sure she's not touching on your son, right? Let's see. Prayers to anyone, the family members who have experienced sexual violation. The trauma is lifelong, and it's lifelong, and it runs deep. So, like I said, we will get back to it. If anyone has something that they did not get to share, you can make sure you share it to me. We will revisit it on the 22nd. I hope Christian and Pookie, and maybe we can even get Daniel or at least one more person to join in to do our Super Bowl topic on the 8th. Is it 11? I think it's the 8th. I just said 8th. Okay, yeah, on the 8th. As y'all know, I'll be coming to y'all with food and whatever else y'all need. I guess we'll be going to Pookie's house since he goes in the office. I don't know if he telework. Will you be home on the 8th, or are you teleworking on that day? If not, I'm gonna have to write your supervisor a letter to let them know, let you come home for the second half. And see if you can see if I can send your supervisor some flowers and maybe a box of candy so that we can host it and talk about some Super Bowl stats. And as you know, the month of love is approaching. We're going to talk about and I got these notepads and stuff going now, getting real more organized with it. We're going to talk about what's the meaning of love. So I hope that you are able to join me back next month as we start a new month. Again, shout out to my niece and my new great niece. And thank you all so much for sipping. Keep the responses coming in. Christian, make sure you're off on that Wednesday, the 8th. Keep those responses coming in, and we're going to pick back up with this on the 22nd. Anything that you think of and you want to send it to me, I can just read it all when we come back to it on the 22nd. And thank you all so much, as always, for sipping with a sister. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week.